Table manners. Where did you learn yours? From your mother. I imagine we all did. And from the time that, well, maybe when we were in the high chair, they gave us some slack, you know, as we sprayed food everywhere. But then when we got to the point where we were sitting at the table, there were some rules we had to go by, right? Well, and, you know, there's the plate. And right beside it, you've got the, what? Silverware. And what's the silverware? It's a knife, a fork, and a spoon, and a what? Knife, fork, spoon. All right. You just got a glass there too, don't you? And on the table, you got salt and pepper. You got butter for the biscuits, and some jelly to go on them, or syrup, right? You got all of these different things. Then you've got the fried chicken. You got the mashed potatoes. You got peas and rice. And then sitting over here, you got the banana pudding. All right? You got it all. All right. Now, all these things on the table. Now, how do you get what you want? You ask for it. You don't reach for it. You don't say, throw me a biscuit. Now, have y'all ever done that and actually got a biscuit thrown at you? Sure you did. Sure you did, probably. It's happened. How many of you have ever reached across the table to get something and your mama slapped your hand? Yeah. Table manners. Table manners. And I remember in high school singing in the all-state chorus, and Mrs. Bishop, our director, had taken the four of us over to Savannah for that reunion of all the guys people who had made it. And she took us out to a restaurant one night. Now, on my table at the farm in Barney, there was the knife and the fork and the spoon. But she took us to one of these fancy places. We had to dress up in a coat and tie. And then we got there, we sat down, and they had this plate, and then under it was another plate. You know what I'm talking about? And what do you call that? Yeah, a charger. I mean, why do you need a charger at the table? I don't know. You had a napkin. And this guy comes by, and he yanks that napkin, and he snaps it, and he tries to put it across my lap. I didn't know what he was doing. And then I look out there, and there, honestly, folks, there were 4 forks, 3 spoons, and 2 different types of knives. And then there were all these different glasses. You know, there was one for water. There was one for tea. There was one for wine, but Ms. B wouldn't let us have any of that. And here I am. I'm sitting, and I'm watching, and they begin to bring out the food. They bring it out to you in courses, you know. They don't put it all on the plate, all on the table at one time. And they bring something out, and you're supposed to use one of those forks for it. Well, I just sat there because I didn't know what to do. And I watched. And I watched Ms. Bishop because I knew Ms. Bishop knew which one to pick it up. And she just was having fun with all of us because we were sitting there. And she just looked at us and she said, I don't know which one to pick up either. Y'all just use which one you want. No, she did share with me. Table manners. In the Corinthian church, in the first chapter of Corinthians, Paul talks about that there's a division in the church. It seems that there are some that liked him better, there's some that liked Apollos better, there's some that liked Cephas better. Now, each one of you here, you have a favorite preacher. Each one of you does. There is somebody in your life, some minister perhaps, that was with you maybe at the baptism of your children, Maybe they were with you at your marriage. Maybe they were with you at a significant high point in your life, or maybe they were with you through a rough relationship and whether it broke up or was resolved. Maybe they were with you during the death of a loved one. And that person has become very, very close to you. And hallelujah for it. There is one outstanding one in my life that I go back to and thank God for, that He was there for me. It seems that these people in Corinth were thinking, well, hey, Paul brought me into the church. Paul's got to be the best because nobody else could touch me. Cephas brought me into the church, or Apollos brought me into the church, and they did this for me and showed me that and all of this. And so there was some discussion going on as to which one perhaps was the greatest preacher, which one was the greatest orator, which one was the most fun to be around. Which one spoke with the most authority? Which one? And so the controversy. And then he goes on over in the 3rd chapter, and Paul says something to the effect that, did Paul die for you? Did Apollos die for you? No, this is the way it works. He said, I came along and I might have sowed the seed. Apollos came along and he watered. And Cephas did something else. We are all a part of the process. And we all must learn. Now, in that church, really, communion first started out in Corinth. It was a big deal. It was almost like a Methodist covered dish dinner. Except not everybody would bring groceries. Everybody came hungry, but not everybody brought food. And there were a bunch of folks who didn't bring food, who came early and would eat up all the food that was there. And they'd drink up all the wine too. So by the time the church gathering started, all the food was gone, all the wine was gone. And if those who had gotten there early needed to go home, they would have had to have a special camel driver because they would have gotten pulled over for DUI. There was a lot of stuff going on that was unholy. Their manners at the spiritual table were not what they should have been. They did not understand what was going on. For here, Paul says, I have proclaimed unto you what I know, what has been revealed to me, that Christ has died for us, and that He has paid the ultimate and supreme sacrifice, that you and I might have life abundantly here and that we might have it eternally in heaven. Once for all, the sin sacrifice, the debt has been paid. And now we find that the sacrificial system, and this was where the real rub was with the scribes and the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, and the political machine in the temple at that particular time. Because Christ coming, Him being Messiah, the one that had been looked for all through the ages, the one who had been hoped for, was now here. But if we recognize Him as Messiah, it's going to take away all of this stuff that we have in place. And they rejected Him. But for those who did receive Him, there is no need to bring to the temple, the lambs and the rams and the doves and the things like that. Yes, we bring the first fruits of that which we have received and which we labor for. But no sacrifice for sins, because the sacrifice has been made. Paul taught them the manner at the table was to receive what Christ had done for you, and that to realize that none of us in our own righteousness is worthy. And that's why I think a part of this service is why Jesus gave us this table, so that all could come with these symbols of bread and the grape juice that we use, and be mindful of what He has given for us and what He has promised to us. Table manners are important. To be and to grow Christ-like, and to exemplify those values, to exemplify those morals, to exemplify those particular things that we are to do at the table, means that we're conscious of what we need to be doing in life, growing more Christ-like.